Welcome children. Take out your geography book. Today's topic is effects of water pollution. Human health can be affected by water pollution quite adversely. It may result in human health. It can be affected by the water pollution in a quite good number. That is, it may result in many diseases. Now, number one is diseases caused by microorganisms. Diseases which are caused by microorganisms. Microorganism means it refers to very tiny organism and it may help to prevent diseases. Chemical toxicants present in the polluted water. Now, chemical toxicants, chemicals which are present in this polluted water. Then come diseases caused by mosquitoes such as malaria, dengue, chikungunya, etc. Now, diseases which are caused by the bites of mosquitoes, that is malaria, dengue, chikungunya, etc. Next comes the diseases which are caused by biological agents. Man's health may be affected by the consumption of contaminant. Now, man's health, human being can fall ill if they take contaminated water. Waterborne diseases. Hepatitis is caused by virus. Now, hepatitis. What it is caused by? It is caused by viruses. Diarrhea is an acute intestinal disorder. Diarrhea. It is also an acute intestinal disorder. Cholera is caused by living under unhygienic condition and consuming polluted water. Now, cholera. How it is caused? It is caused by living in very polluted area. That means in a very unhygienic condition and drinking polluted water. Typhoid is caused by contaminated water. It may also cause boils and ulcers in the stomachs and intestine. Typhoid. It is caused by taking contaminated water. It can even cause it may also cause boils and ulcers in the stomachs and intestine. Now comes the eutrophication. Now, what is this eutrophication? It is a process of depletion of oxygen from water bodies due to natural and human factors such as oil spill. Now, eutrophication means it is a process through which the level of oxygen decreases from the water bodies due to natural and human factors such as, for example, oil spill. Effects of chemical on human being. Now, what are the effects of chemicals on human being? Chemical pollutants of diverse nature derived from industrial and agricultural waste are polluting the sources of drinking water. Now, chemical pollutants, they are of different types of nature. They are derived from the industrial and even the agricultural waste. They pollute the sources of drinking water. These pollutants include detergents, solvents, cyanide, minerals, sulfides and ammonia, etc. Now, these pollutants, what does it include? It includes detergents, solvents, cyanide, minerals, sulfides and even ammonia. Some of the heavy metals which are causing continuous threat include fluorides, arsenic, lead, nitrates, pesticides, cobalt, cadmium, tin and mercury. Now, some of these heavy metals which are causing continuous threat, what does it include? It includes fluorides, then arsenic, lead, nitrates, pesticides, cobalt, cadmium, tin and even mercury. Now comes the fluorides. What are fluorides? Fluorides cause fluorosis, humped back, stiffness of bone joints and dental fluorosis. Now, fluorides, what does it cause? It causes fluorosis. These are humped back, stiffness of the bone joints and even the dental fluorosis. Lead. It is toxic to both central and peripheral nervous system and it can even accumulate in the bones. Pesticides can cause tumors, chromosomal alteration, brain damage, impotency and cancer. Now, pesticides, what it can cause? It can cause tumors, it can cause chromosomal alteration, then brain damage, impotencies and even cancer. Arsenic. Arsenic in mild doses cause nausea, vomiting and stomach burns. Now, arsenic in mild doses, it causes nausea, then vomiting, stomach burns. In lethal doses, it may cause death due to shock and vascular failure. Now, mercury. Mercury damages the nervous system. What does mercury do? It damages the nervous system. It may lead to insomnia, tremors, bleeding of gums, etc. It also leads to various diseases, that is insomnia, tremors, bleeding of gums, etc. Methyl mercury may cause Minamata disease, which is a form of mercury poisoning. Now, methyl mercury, it causes the Minamata disease. It is a type of mercury poisoning. In the 1950s, more than 50 people died in the seacoast village of Minamata in Japan. Now, during 1950s, what happened? More than 50 people died in the seacoast or village of Minamata, which is in Japan. It was linked to the indigestion of mercury that was introduced into the food chain. Now, it happened due to the indigestion of mercury which was introduced in the food chain. It happened due to water pollution by mercury. Now, why it happened? Because water got polluted in that area due to mercury. High nitrates contents of water is associated with methemoglobinemia. Now, high nitrate content of water. What it is related to? It is related to methemoglobinemia. Infants are most susceptible to nitrate content. This nitrate content mostly affects the infant, that is a baby. Effects of soil pollution. Soil pollution by various chemicals and organic materials also produce various health hazards for the human. Now, soil pollution of various chemicals and even the organic material, it also produces various health hazards for the human. Chemical fertilizers do damage when they are washed into waterways. Now, chemical fertilizers even damages when they are washed in the waterways, that is lakes and underground aquifers. They also poison water supplies and kill aquatic. Even they poison the water supplies and kill the aquatic life. In addition, chemical fertilizers destroy the soil's natural balance. In addition, chemical fertilizers destroy the soil's natural balance. This makes the soil vulnerable to erosion, leaves it lacking in nutrition. It makes the soil vulnerable, that is to erosion, erodes the soil, leaves it lacking to nutrition, and even start a vicious cycle in which more fertilizers may be used to make up for the soil depletion. In it, more fertilizers are used for making the soil depletion. Arsenic leads to pesticides and chromium are most harmful substances which are hazardous in nature. Now, arsenic, lead, pesticides and chromium, these are the most harmful substances and it is too hazardous, it is too dangerous for the nature. Effects of noise pollution. Noise pollution causes discomfort and may lead to temporary or permanent damage on hearing. Noise pollution. It causes discomfort and this leads to temporary or even permanent damage to hearing. It may adversely affect human. It also affects the human being. Sleep disturbance. First is due to noise pollution, sleep disturbance. That means we cannot sleep. Second is hearing losses. We cannot hear properly. Due to noise pollution, we cannot hear properly. Interference with communication. Then annoyance, headache, general fatigue, rise in blood pressure, problems with the digestive system. Now, effects of radiation. Radiation is known to cause an increase in the incidence of cancer and many such related. Now, radiation, what is known as? It is known to increase in the incidence of the cancer and many other related disorders. A dose of 25 to 50 roentgens to the whole body affects the white blood cells and results in softening of muscle. Now, a dose of 25 to 50 roentgens to this whole body, it affects the white blood cell and this results to soften the muscles. Radiation also causes genetic disorders. Now, radiation, it even causes genetic disorder which may carry on year. It carries out through year after year for generation together. For example, Chernobyl disaster in Ukraine in 1980. For example, that is Chernobyl disaster. It occurred in Ukraine in the year 1986. Now, Bhopal gas tragedy. The Bhopal gas tragedy was worst industrial accident that occurred on 3rd December 1984. Now, Bhopal gas tragedy, it is the worst industrial accident which occurred on 3rd of December 1984. The accident was caused by the release of 40 tons of methyl isocyanide into the atmosphere from Union Carbide's pesticides factory in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Now, this accident, why it caused? It was caused due to the release of 40 tons of methyl isocyanide gas, that is MIC gas, into the atmosphere from the Union Carbide. It is a pesticides factory in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Nearly 35,000 to 40,000 people were killed, and in that tragedy near about 35 to 45,000 people killed. Most of the victims were poor people living in the slum. Most of the people who were affected in the Bhopal gas tragedy, they were poor people, they were to live in the slum. Most of the people were affected and had breathing problem. Most of the people who were affected, they had the breathing problem. The gas affected the nervous system. People lost control of their body. Now gas, it affected the nervous system. People lost control over their body. Now effects of Bhopal gas tragedy. The long range effects are still continuing. Now this long range still it is continuing. After the accident, Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR, disclosed that means after this Bhopal gas tragedy, the Union Carbide was sealed and ICMR disclosed that now the blood of the victims in the tragedy had permanently got now blood in the victims. Blood in the victims means who had suffered in the gas tragedy, they were permanently got toxicated, leading to damage their brain, kidneys, lungs, muscles and gastrointestinal system, and this led to the damage of the brain, kidneys, lungs, muscles and gastrointestinal system, etc. Methyl isocyanide, that is MIC, also inferred several with the productivity ability of men and other. Now MIC, it also interfered severely to the reproductive ability of men and other animals. The various plant species have suffered from chromosomal aberrations. Now various plant species, they have suffered from chromosomal aberrations. Now Chernobyl disaster. The Chernobyl disaster occurred on April 26, 1986. Now on April 26, 1986, Chernobyl disaster occurred at Chernobyl nuclear plant in Ukraine. Where it is? Chernobyl nuclear plant in Ukraine. It was one of the most worst disaster in the history of nuclear. This is one of the worst disaster in the history of nuclear power. It happened in the early hours of the operator were conducting an experiment in the nuclear premises. When it happened, when the operator, they were conducting an experiment in the nuclear plant premises. During the experiment, there was a massive steam explosion. At the time of experimenting, there was a massive steam explosion. The core of the reactor combined with water to produce hydrogen, which exploded, throwing toxic radioactive gases into the air. Now, this core of the reactor, it combined together with mixed with the water and then produced hydrogen and then exploded, throwing the toxic radioactive gases into the air. There were several incidents of death in the first few days. In the first few days, many people died. The reactor was packed in a steel and concrete building to prevent the spread of harmful emission. Now, after the incident, the reactor was packed in a steel and concrete building to prevent the spread of harmful emission. The main reason for Chernobyl disaster were poor plant design. Now, what was the main reason for this disaster? It was poor plant design, incompetency and poorly designed safely measure. Effects of Chernobyl disaster. The operational negligence at Chernobyl with plant design resulted in the spread of radioactive fallout. Now, operational due to the negligence at Chernobyl in the poor plant design, it resulted in the spread of radioactive fallout. The whole of Western USSR and other European countries were contaminated by gamma emission. Now, full Western, that is whole of Western USSR and even other European countries, they were contaminated by this gamma emission. Deposited in soil. Meat and dairy products were contaminated. Everything got contaminated. That is, meat and dairy product got contaminated. Radioactive clouds travelled across the Europe and spread the dust of random everywhere. Now, radioactive clouds, it travelled across the Europe and then spread the dust of random everywhere. Thousands of people became exposed to Chernobyl radiation. Now, many people, they became exposed to Chernobyl radiation affecting the living organisms. There may cause genetic disorder, variety of cancers and leukemia. Now, this caused genetic disorder, variety of cancers and leukemia. There were even mining and processing of uranium into nuclear fuel releases radiation into the air and water and result in radioactive. Even mining and process of uranium into nuclear fuel, it releases the radiation to the air and the water, and this resulted in radioactive waste. Chernobyl disaster proved that any type of nuclear activity creates nuclear waste. Now, Chernobyl disaster, what it proved? That any type of nuclear activity which creates this nuclear waste, they will be able for us to live thousands of years. Hence, precaution against such activities have to be taken. And so, precaution against this activity has to be taken from now onwards. Now, we'll revise this lesson again, and with this, I am ending today's class. Goodbye.